Hey guys, and welcome back to New Earth Alchemy, where we're trying to make a better world, trying to find a little bit of happiness and fulfillment and purpose, be the change or whatever it takes to get us out of surviving and towards more thriving. Today's episode is for you if you have problems with boundaries with other people, maybe people-pleasing tendencies, and overall just feel like you give, and all you get is drained in return. I think a lot of us fall into this category, and we hear that we need to give that which we want in return. So that's what we do. We give and we give and we give until we are so freaking resentful and exhausted that then we in turn shut down and say, you know what, forget it. It's not working, and I'm not going to just keep giving to all of these people who don't appreciate me. So I'm done, and I get it. So a part of the problem is that we feel like we're very specific about how we feel we should be reciprocated, right? And we get really stuck on the specificness of how we want to be repaid for all of that, because again, what you put out is what you get back, right? And we're like, well, I've been putting out and I've been putting out. Why am I not getting back from these people that I'm pouring into? And that's the problem, is that it may not come from the people that you want it to come from. It may not come from the people that you're pouring into, but it will come elsewhere. And then you really have to remember that and hold that and find a way to disconnect from the attachment of getting what you're wanting, what you're needing, whether it be love, acceptance, companionship, whatever it is. It honestly most likely will not come from the people that you are pouring into, from the people that you have chosen, or, well, it's not really that you have chosen for the most part, is it? Usually it's our family. Usually it's the people that have been in our lives, and that makes it extra hard to sever the connection, the attachment, because that's what a family's supposed to be. And that's what our loved ones they're supposed to be supportive. They're supposed to love us unconditionally and not put all of these restrictions on us. But that's not how things work in the actual gameplay. We all want to feel seen, heard, understood, accepted. And if you have someone in your life that they've always been in your life, say, or they've been in your life for a long time, and you yearn for these things from them specifically, and you've tried all the things and you've poured into them, yada yada, we really have to accept that people don't change unless they want to. And they can't want to unless they realize that there's an issue. And most don't realize that there's an issue, or don't want to realize that there's an issue, because that puts responsibility on them to do something about it. And most people don't want that responsibility. And we could be upset about this. It's okay to be upset about it, at least for a while, because it's a mourning process. You have to go through 6 stages of grief and mourning to find acceptance. But we don't want to get stuck on it. We want to keep moving forward. We want the energy to keep moving. It's a waste of our time. It's a waste of our energy. Everything is energy. And we can't get back the time that we lose. It's our most valuable asset. It's a waste of all of that to keep holding on to the attachment of receiving those things from someone who isn't going to give them to you, someone who has proven time and time again that they're not going to give you these things. But we don't want to walk away in resentment. We want to learn how to hold boundaries so that we can still not cut them out of our lives, but instead find ways to keep them in our lives in a way that they're not harming us, in a way that we're not walking away resentful and angry. Most of the time we think that holding boundaries is about keeping people out of your lives, but it's not. It's about keeping people in your life in a healthy way. And sometimes that looks like removing yourself from the situation for a little while. But we're not doing it to teach them a lesson, because most likely that's a losing battle. They're not going to learn a lesson that we force upon them. We are merely and only protecting our energy, protecting ourselves and our happiness. And how you define your boundaries and how you decide where your boundaries are and what they are and all of that is going to look probably very different from person to person, relationship to relationship. Some people you're going to be able to discuss this with, and some people you're not. And it's up to you to know who is receptive and who is not, because a lot of people are not receptive to the stationing of boundaries, and they will combat them, they will fight them, they will fight you, and things will get probably pretty heated. And we really don't want that either, right? In which case, simply becoming more quiet and scarce is totally okay. Sometimes trying to directly address issues just makes things worse, because then you realize that they don't want to fix it, and because they'll yell at you very loudly about how they are not an issue, or it's not an issue, or it's not a problem, or whatever. It could go off. We could give a million examples and still have more to speak on. But it's kind of a waste of time to focus on them and the people. What we need to focus on is ourselves, because that's really all we can control. So the last thing that you want to do is lose the part of yourself that is loving and giving and caring. That part of you is absolutely precious and the thing that's going to help us turn this whole world for all of us around. So first and foremost, do not let anyone shadow that side of you. Don't let yourself shadow that side of you. Protect it like the precious child that it is. And just like if you were your own parent, okay? Imagine that you're the parent of yourself, or you have a child, right? And you see your child that you love so dearly, your precious child. They're so sweet, they're so accepting and giving and friendly and always making sure everybody feels welcomed and included. And then they're giving all of their energy and love and attention to this other kid who's being a jerk, being mean. You'd probably tell your kid to stop hanging out with that kid, right? But that's easy, right? Because the kid is just some random kid at the park or at school. What if it's not a kid? What if it's a family member? That's when things start to get a little bit more complicated, because society and culture has taught us that we are supposed to placate family members more or something. I'm honestly really not. I don't subscribe to that whole, but it's your mom, but it's your dad, but it's your sister, but it's your whoever. No, it doesn't matter. If you're being mistreated, they don't deserve what limited amount of time and energy that you have. But also, we are entirely too quick to cut people out of our lives. Now that we are aware of what red flags are and that we know we don't have to put up with them, we've become less forgiving and more rigid about interacting with people, which has left us all lonely. We really have to learn what is a personal breaking point and what we're okay with working with a little bit. Because not a single person on this planet is perfect, especially when everyone's ideals and ideas of perfection are completely different. You're going to make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes. Everybody on this planet is going to make mistakes and have things and interactions that they're embarrassed about moving forward, things that they regret. And we're also going to have things that we don't know we should regret, and we don't know that we should be sorry for. There's probably a ton of interactions you've had with people where you said something or did something that they perceived as toxic and terrible, and you had no idea and did not mean it that way. Misunderstandings happen every day, all of the time. Some of them you're going to be aware of, and some of them you're not. I have interactions with people all the time where I'm like, they didn't understand what I meant, and now they think I'm an asshole. But I also am like, whatever. And granted, it took me a long time to get to that point, because it bothered me a lot, and I was like, no, let me explain myself till I'm blue in the face. But I no longer have the need to do so. Now I am secure in myself and who I am. I know I'm a good person. I know that I'm kind. I know that I have my best interests for everyone at heart. Therefore, if other people are going to misunderstand me and think that I'm an asshole, then that's on them at this point. Life is hard on all of us. All I can do is go out there and do my best. And most likely, if they perceive that as something crappy, then it's probably a projection of themselves. most likely. But sometimes it's not, sometimes we do make mistakes. I mean, if I am aware of those, then I always apologize and explain myself and whatnot if I am presented with the opportunity to do so. But there's this whole thing where it's like, you assume that nothing's wrong, because you have these interactions with people, and you get these energies and these vibes, and you're like, did I do something? Is something wrong here? I'm not sure. I kind of feel like something is. And if you want to ask for clarity, that is fine. And if they choose not to say anything, they're like, no, everything's fine, then take that. Everything is fine. And assume everything is fine. And sometimes they'll tell you everything's fine when it's not. That's on them. No more being in your head and beating yourself up for things that you're unsure that even happened. Because no matter how good we get at reading energy, we could always be wrong. And something very well may be wrong with them at the moment, and something's going on, and you feel like it's you, but they said they were fine. So just assume that they're fine. And I mean, you can push, but just don't take it and internalize it as obviously there's something wrong with you and that you did something. If nobody has pointedly been like, you did this, or I'm mad because you XYZ, then assume everything's fine. Everything's peachy key between you and them. And if it's not personal. Think of it as being super egotistical to assume that you're the cause of their bad mood, bad energy, or whatever. If you want to ask them if they're okay, then that's great. But don't just assume that it's something you did unless otherwise you've been told that it was. And again, a lot of people are going to tell you that you're the problem when you're not. It's hard to navigate the world out there. There is nothing more rewarding in this life than the relationships that you share with one another. But there is also nothing that will hurt you more, and there is nothing more complicated than the relationships that you share with one another. And we make those simpler by, again, just focusing on ourselves and our own energy and just doing our best, because people will have you believing that you are different than what you are. There's lots of things at play. For one, projection. We project our own things out onto the outside world. You don't see the world as it is. You see the world as you are. But people are always making assumptions and projections and accusations and telling us that we're one way when we're not, or telling us that we like this but don't like that when it may or may not be true. People have all sorts of ideas about who we are. There are no two people on this planet who have the same view, like whole view, maybe different aspects and characteristics of that view of who you are. But not a person on this planet there's no two exact same views of who you are. Therefore, the only view that is actually accurate of who you are is the one that you decide is accurate for you. And that means, finding your authentic self through focusing on what you value and what you prioritize, so that you can create, focus on your goals and create the life that you want. And all of that comes from within you and how you feel about things and how you think about things. And the more secure that you can be in that vision that you hold of your truest self, the more all this external stuff falls away, because nothing about your true self, your authentic self, the self that's going to make you the happiest and manifest your dreams and your desires and just heal and replace all of the bad with the good and everything that you desire, all of it comes from within you. None of it comes externally. It's all about your thoughts, your beliefs, your decisions, your values, your priorities. The only thing that the external outside world can do for you in that path and journey is to inspire you, motivate you, or tell you what you don't like and don't want. Everything else is just noise, and it's awfully noisy, and the noise makes it cloudy. And to find clarity, everybody's always talking about clarity. Clarity is a little bit of a joke, just so you know, because the natural state and order of life and the human dynamic is complete and utter chaos. Sometimes in a somewhat organized manner, but not always. The only constant in life is change. So as soon as you figure out one aspect of yourself, things might twist and turn a little bit. And then, for example, our taste buds. Our taste buds evolve and they change and they flip-flop. And sometimes you may be obsessed with avocados for a while, and then all of a sudden you can't stand them. The texture's off. What is this? And you go years and you're like, nope, don't like avocados. Used to like avocados. Definitely do not like avocados anymore. And then one day you're all of a sudden craving them again. So clarity is more abstract than you think. It's more based on emotion. Instead of clarity and trying to put words to and directions to what you want and things, just focus on the emotions, focus on the feelings. And if that makes you seem like you're all over the place, it doesn't matter as long as you're happy. Our obsession with clarity is a cultural thing, a societal thing. It's that focus of, or that idea of, to have clarity is to be successful. And if you're all over the place, or seemingly all over the place, because you may seem like you're all over the place, but you're actually not. I had that problem a really long time. I was like, I'm a doula, and now I'm teaching yoga, and now I'm on meditation, and now I'm on Reiki. And even though from the outsider's point of view, my husband was always like, I wish you would pick something and stick with it. And I'm like, it's all the same thing. It's all energy based. It's all energy work. It's all mindset work, just in different forms and with different problems. And the issue comes from us trying to, quote unquote, find clarity and label it as a distinctive 2 to 3 word title and call it a day, because that's where our success lies, right? But that's not really how life works. The language of the universe doesn't speak in words, and humans, we want words. We want to box some things, but nothing is actually boxable. Everything is more fluid than we think. Anyway, we've kind of circled way off track, and so I'm going to bring this back around to the boundaries. And you have to take care of yourself first. You have to protect your energy first. You have to figure out what you want, what your values are, what your priorities are. You have to learn to trust yourself and like yourself. And a lot of the problem of people not liking themselves is, again, external, with like their physical appearance. And that's a forever losing battle. Because again, our appearance is always changing. It's always going to be shifting from one thing to another, especially as we age. Even though we could get on the tangent of the belief system creating your reality, and how there's a whole theory out there that we only age because we believe we're supposed to, which kind of coincides with how we don't know how bees are able to fly. They just do. But it doesn't make sense that they can scientifically. What? Their wings shouldn't be able to sustain their body weight, but they do. And the best thing we've come up with is that they fly only because they believe themselves to be able to. So maybe we should all collectively become delusional about not aging. That would be great. Let's do that. Young and wild and free forever. Yeah? Anyway, take loving yourself, take the physical appearance completely out of learning to like who you are, and just focus on the characteristics of your personality that you want to be. Your work ethic, how do you want that to be? How kind, how compassionate, how giving, how loving, those types of things. Because again, that's more or less one of the only things that you can actually control in this life. But the more you learn to trust yourself and love yourself, the more you can protect your energy and set these boundaries that you hold tight to, okay? And I saw something the other day that said, having a boundary without a consequence is not a boundary. It's just a suggestion or a preference. So you have to, because a lot of people will be like, hey, we don't like that. I don't like that. Please don't do that. But then they just continue doing it, and we just, and nothing changes. But you have to enact those boundaries for yourself. They have to be consequences. You have to hold to the boundary. And I'm not saying consequences like you snap at them or you cut them out of your life, or just quietly step back, quietly become more protective of yourself is all. If you're constantly being attacked, through their energy, through their words, whatever it is, then naturally you're going to want to put a shield up, right? If someone's shooting at you, you want to put a shield up. It's the same thing with holding boundaries. If you put your shield up and the fire becomes heavier and you feel like they're crushing you, fall back, retreat, go back to the castle, find a safe place, find bigger walls. Don't just lay out there and let them continue to shoot you. Come back to them only when you feel like you've been replenished, making sure that you're focusing on things that increase your energy levels and increase your healthiness, your happiness, your stamina, all of that, so that when you do interact with people, you are your best self. Because when we are at our peak selves is when we have the most patience, the most kindness. We're able to keep a level voice when we're met with these angry individuals or whatever. If all of our needs are met first, then we have the capabilities to peacefully move forward in our interactions of responding rather than reacting, right? Responding rather than reacting. We've heard that before, yes? And that means taking a breath and thinking about what you're going to say before you say it, if it's even worth saying anything at all, rather than just being triggered by what they did or said and now you're screaming, and that's not helping anyone. That's just perpetuating that same type of ill energy that we're all trying to get away from, right? Hurt people, healed people, heal people. You're always creating ripples out from you through the people around you, through the interactions you have, whether you realize it, you are or you aren't. We're always creating ripples out from us. And it's up to us to control those ripples and make sure that they're good, healthy, happy, peaceful, all of the things that we want in the new world, and none of the things that have gotten us to where we are. Not that we're going to be perfect in that, okay? And we should never beat ourselves up for when we slip up, because it's going to happen. I still say stupid stuff. I still yell sometimes. I am no saint. I am just a real person doing my best, just like you are. But I believe in us, and I think that we can do a little bit better than what previous generations have done. Not that we're blaming any of them, because I've went on 1,000 tangents on that, and I could talk about that in and of itself for an hour probably. But we're going to try to stay focused here. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot show up as your best, healthiest selves. Have you heard of the caregiver problem, where caregivers oftentimes die before the person that they have to caregive for, because they're always sacrificing their own needs to care for the person who needs them? Take care of you first so that you can take care of those you love. And it is not selfish, because the people, even your children, and they're like, well, you mean except for your children? No, take care of yourself before you take care of your children, for lots of reasons. For one, they're not getting the best you if you're strung out, stressed out all the time and sick. And for two, if you're always sacrificing your own needs to care for them, what is that teaching them? What is that teaching them moving forward in their own relationships? Are they, for one, going to turn around and do the exact same thing and sacrifice their own needs for the ones that they love in the future? You don't want that. You don't want them living that type of life. Or are you doing too much for them, and now they're not understanding or learning how to take care of themselves? Because we can't rely on other people to take care of us, right? We have to first and foremost take care of ourselves, because it's our responsibility to take care of us. It is not your mother's responsibility to take care of you if you are grown. It is your responsibility to take care of you so that your mother can breathe. And that's why the best thing any of us can do is to focus on ourselves. I could continue, but I'm going to wrap it up. This has been a lot to unpack. I went on a couple of tangents. It probably gave you a couple things to think about. Let me know what you think about this. I love to continue discussing these things. If you have questions or thoughts, please bring them to my attention. You can email me or text me through Facebook Messenger, not through like text. I don't put my actual phone number out there. But please just take care of you. Nobody on this planet who loves you is going to fault you for that. And I mean, some will, but they don't know any better. But just hold tight to your boundaries, and eventually they'll see, and you'll start to transform, and you'll start to glow, and you'll start to look healthier than you've ever looked, and happier than you've ever looked, and more peaceful than you've ever seemed. And your energy is just going to be magnificent and drawing them into you. And they're just going to be like, wait a second, what have you been doing now? Because I thought you were being selfish and just shutting everybody out, but it looks like you're actually, what is this? That I want this transformation that I'm seeing in you. Or they just continue being miserable, is a term that I'm using loosely here. Ultimately, that's up to them to decide what to do with their lives and their energy. I personally believe that even under the best of circumstances, life is entirely too short, and we should really be not wasting a single moment, a single piece of energy that we are given with hate or anger or any of those low vibrational feelings, because it takes too long to figure life out. And then what? What are you chasing? Why chase success and money and all of these other things that we think are going to get us these emotions that we want? Just jump straight to the emotions and do what makes you happy, healthy, peaceful, yada yada today, right now, in this moment. Breathe deep, relax your shoulders. I love you so much. I'll talk to you next week. Namaste.